The Vexery had conquered 17 star systems before they reached Earth. Their ships darkened the skies of countless worlds. Their soldiers marched through cities made of crystal and stone. They collected species like trophies. They broke civilizations for sport. Nothing in the galaxy had ever stopped them. Nothing had ever made them afraid. That changed on a small colony world called New Haven. Commander Zeth stood on the bridge of his warship, watching the blue and green planet spin slowly below. The colony was young, barely 3 decades old. The humans had built their little settlement near the ocean, surrounded by forests and mountains. It looked peaceful. It looked weak. "Scan the settlement," Zeth ordered. His voice echoed through the metal chamber. "Yes, Commander." The officer worked quickly. Data flowed across the screens. Population of approximately 12,000. Minimal defensive capabilities. Light weapons only. No military vessels in orbit. Zeth smiled. His teeth were sharp and gray. Easy prey. The Vexery did not understand humans. They had heard stories, of course. Strange rumors from distant sectors. Tales of a species that fought without reason. A species that refused to surrender even when defeat was certain. But Zeth dismissed these stories as exaggeration. Every species claimed to be fierce. Every species claimed to be brave. And every species eventually fell before the Vexery war machine. "Prepare the landing parties," Zeth commanded. "We take the settlement tonight. Capture the young ones first. They always make the best slaves." The dropships descended through the atmosphere like metal rain. They landed in the forests outside the colony, crushing trees beneath their weight. Soldiers poured out, weapons ready, moving through the darkness with practiced efficiency. Lieutenant Crix led the eastern squad. His mission was simple. Enter the residential sector. Secure the housing units. Capture as many children as possible. The young ones were valuable. They could be trained. They could be sold. The streets were quiet. Most of the humans were asleep. Crix found this amusing. They had no idea what was coming. They had no idea that their peaceful little world was about to end. His squad moved silently through the neighborhood. The houses were small and simple. Gardens grew in front of them. Toys lay scattered in the yards. Crix counted the windows, identifying which homes contained children. "That one," he whispered, pointing to a house at the end of the street. Through the window, he could see a small bed. A small form sleeping under colorful blankets. Perfect. The squad approached the house. 2 soldiers moved to the back door. 2 more covered the front. Crix would lead the entry team himself. This would be quick. This would be easy. He reached for the door handle. The porch light turned on. The door opened from inside. A woman stood in the doorway. She was tall for a human, with dark hair pulled back from her face and eyes that seemed to glow in the dim light. She wore simple sleeping clothes. She held no weapon. But something in her stance made Crix hesitate. "You should leave," she said. Her voice was calm. Too calm. Crix raised his weapon. "Step aside, human. We are here for the child." The woman did not move. She did not blink. She simply stared at him with those burning eyes. "That is my daughter in that room," she said slowly. "You will not touch her." Crix laughed. "You cannot stop us. There are 6 of us and 1 of you. Be reasonable. Surrender, and perhaps we will let you live." The woman tilted her head. A strange smile crossed her face. "Do you know what my people call me? I do not care. They call me the dragon." Crix felt something shift in the air. The temperature began to rise. He looked at the woman more closely and noticed something he had missed before. Her skin seemed to shimmer. Her eyes were not reflecting the porch light. They were producing their own light, a deep burning orange. "You see," the woman continued, "humanity tried for centuries to unlock the secrets of genetic modification. We wanted to be stronger, faster, better. Most experiments failed, but some succeeded beyond anyone's imagination. The air grew hotter." Crix's armor began to feel warm against his skin. They spliced ancient genes into my DNA, genes from creatures that existed millions of years ago. Creatures of fire and fury. Creatures that humans remembered only in their oldest stories. Steam rose from the wet grass. The paint on the house began to bubble. I was the first successful hybrid. They made me a weapon, a living weapon of war. But then the wars ended, and I wanted peace. I wanted a family. I wanted to be a mother. Her skin was definitely glowing now. Orange and red, like heated metal. The wooden porch beneath her feet began to smoke. I moved to this colony to escape violence, to raise my daughter away from fighting. I promised myself I would never use my abilities again. I buried the dragon inside me. She took a step forward. The soldiers behind Crix stepped backward without thinking. But you came here tonight. You came into my home. You threatened my baby. The words hit like physical blows. And now the dragon is awake. What happened next would become legend throughout the galaxy. The woman's body erupted in flames. Not normal fire, something far more intense. Something that burned white and blue at its core. The temperature spiked so rapidly that the atmospheric sensors on Crix's armor simply stopped functioning. They were not designed to measure heat of that magnitude. She moved forward, and the ground turned to glass beneath her feet. The soldiers opened fire. Their plasma bolts simply vanished into the inferno surrounding her. She raised one hand, and a wave of heat washed over the squad. Their armor began to glow. Metal designed to withstand vacuum and radiation started to soften, started to run. One soldier screamed as his weapon melted in his hands. Another fell as his leg plates fused together. Crix tried to run. He managed 3 steps before the heat wave caught him. His armor became an oven. He collapsed, gasping, as the metal shell that was supposed to protect him became his prison. The woman walked past him toward the other squads. She moved like a creature from nightmare. Fire trailed behind her like a cape. Her footprints were pools of molten rock. The grass ignited wherever she looked. Trees burst into flame at her approach. The Western squad saw her coming. They had been halfway through breaking into another home when the sky turned orange. They raised their weapons. They opened fire with everything they had. Plasma bolts, explosive rounds, concentrated laser beams. Nothing worked. The weapons seemed to anger her more. She swept her arm in a wide arc, and a wall of fire rolled across the street. The soldiers scattered, but the fire was faster. Their armored suits provided no protection. The metal melted against their skin. They fell writhing as their own equipment destroyed them. Commander Zeth watched from orbit with growing horror. His screen showed thermal readings that made no sense. A single heat signature was moving through the colony, registering temperatures usually found only at the core of a star. His soldiers were dying. Their life signs were blinking out one by one. "What is that thing?" he whispered. Nobody answered. The reserve squad made a final stand at the town center. 12 soldiers, the best the Veggery had. They formed a defensive circle. They set their weapons to maximum power. They waited. The dragon came. She walked out of the burning forest like a goddess of destruction. Her human form was barely visible through the flames. She looked at the soldiers with eyes that had become twin suns. She spoke, and her voice carried the roar of a furnace. "You came to take children. You came to take my child." The squad leader tried to respond, tried to negotiate, tried to surrender. His words turned to ash in his throat. "I will give you one chance. Leave this world. Never return. Tell your people what you saw here. Tell them that Earth protects its own." The squad leader raised his weapon instead. She unleashed everything. The blast wave flattened buildings. The heat vaporized the soldiers where they stood. Their weapons, their armor, their bodies. Everything within 50 meters simply ceased to exist. Where they had stood, there was only a crater of glowing slag. Commander Zeth ordered a full retreat. His remaining dropships launched in panic. Some of them did not make it. The dragon looked up at the escaping vessels and exhaled. A column of superheated plasma shot into the sky, catching 2 dropships and turning them into falling debris. The rest escaped, barely. The Veshri warship broke orbit and fled at maximum speed. Behind them, New Haven slowly stopped burning. The dragon's fire faded. Her skin returned to normal. Her eyes became human again. She walked back to her house. The building was untouched. A perfect circle of protection she had maintained even at the height of her fury. She opened the door and went inside. Her daughter was still sleeping, small, innocent, unaware of the battle that had raged outside her window. The woman sat on the edge of the bed. She stroked her daughter's hair gently. Her hands, which had just produced heat capable of melting starship armor, now moved with infinite tenderness. "Mommy?" The little girl stirred. "Shh, baby. Go back to sleep. Everything is fine. I heard loud noises. Just a storm. It is past now." The little girl snuggled deeper into her blankets. "Okay, Mommy. I love you. I love you too, sweetheart. More than anything in the universe." She stayed there until morning, watching her daughter sleep, the dragon inside her finally resting again. The Vexery never returned to human space. Commander Zeth's report spread through their empire like a virus. A species that could produce living weapons. A species where mothers could melt steel with their anger. A species that should never, ever be threatened. The galaxy had learned an important lesson that night. There were many dangerous creatures among the stars. There were many weapons to fear. But nothing in the universe was more dangerous than a human mother protecting her child. Other civilizations heard the story too. Some dismissed it as exaggeration. Some believed it completely. But all of them agreed on one thing. Humans were not to be trifled with, especially the ones they called dragons. Years later, the little girl grew up hearing tales of that night. Tales of how her mother had saved the colony, how she had faced an alien army alone, how her love had burned hotter than any star. She grew up knowing that no matter what dangers existed in the galaxy, she would always be safe, because her mother was watching. Her mother was ready. And if anyone ever threatened her family again, the dragon would wake once more. The steel would melt. The fire would rise. And heaven help anyone foolish enough to threaten a dragon's child. Some bonds were forged in blood. Some bonds were forged in battle. But the bond between mother and child was forged in something stronger than both. It was forged in fire. And fire never dies.